Good afternoon, Bay Nation. Welcome to another episode of Fantasy Bay. I'm your host, Mike Williams, and today we're going over the waiver wire for week 3. Yes, I brought back the waiver wire hat. Let's go! I like to rock a fancy hat on waiver wire Wednesdays. Starting off with the quarterback position. Are you going through some quarterback troubles? Here's 4 quarterbacks that might help you out this week. We're going with Carson Wentz against the Philadelphia Eagles. Yes, I do like the way that the Eagles have been playing recently, but Carson Wentz has been pretty solid. Pretty solid for fantasy football, not for real life. 4 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, that's pretty solid, but it's kind of garbage time. Next quarterback on my list, Jared Goff. He had 4 touchdowns last game, and he plays Minnesota. I think it's going to have to be a back and forth affair. And then after that, it gets Seattle. I think he has some good matchups. And this offense is not bad. I like the run game. I like the receivers. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a new saint in town. Other quarterbacks that I would look into, Marcus Mariota faces the Seahawks in Cleveland the next 2 weeks. And Jimmy GQ. Jimmy G's matchups aren't great, but I do think that he's going to be a solid quarterback. He's 4th on my list for a reason. Oh, and if he's still out there, Tua Tagovailoa. He showed out last week. 6 touchdowns, went crazy. I don't like the matchup for this week, but I do think he's a solid stash. Moving on to the wide receiver position. 3 wide receivers you need to run to the waiver wire and see if they're still available. Jarrett Wilson went off for the Jets this week. If he's still available, scoop him up. Jahan Dotson looks to be one of Carson Wentz's go-to targets. Don't leave him out on the wire. And Treylon Burks. If this Tennessee Titans offense is going to be anything this year, they're going to need to throw it to someone downfield. They drafted Treylon Burks for a reason. He's supposed to be the A.J. Brown replacer. A.J. Brown got some targets downfield. I think that they're going to start doing that. Grab him before he breaks out. 5 receivers you might want to grab off the waiver wire if you're in a pinch. Jacoby Myers, wide receiver for the New England Patriots. He had 13 targets last week. Let's go. He led the receivers in targets by far. Next up, we have Sterling Shepard. His production wasn't great, but he did have 10 targets. By far the most from any receiver on this team. Some other receivers you can look into. Joshua Palmer. Yes, I remember it. It was scary to have him. I also had him. It was rough. But if Keenan Allen misses another week, you're going to be happy you have him. Couple of flyers. Greg Dortch looked like he was pretty solid for Arizona. Greg Dortch had 9 targets week 1. Not bad. Came down to earth with 4 this week, but if you're looking for a flyer, you can find worse. And last but not least, Noah Brown. Never heard of him? I can't blame you. I had him before Sunday. Wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys. How about them Cowboys? Congrats on the win. But Noah Brown seems like he likes this guy. Got 5 targets and a touchdown. You might want to look into that. 91 yards doesn't hurt. Speaking of Dallas Cowboys, which I try not to do often, Michael Gallup should be coming back from injury at some point. I think you might want to snag him up now before you have to pay too much for him on the waiver wire. Just someone to look into. Moving on to the running back position. To be frank, I'm not really excited about the running backs this week on the waiver wire. Raheem Mostert looks like he's getting the majority of the carries. He had over double the amount of carries as Chase Edmonds, 11-5, and he even had 1 more target than the pass-catching running back. The whole reason why everybody drafted Chase Edmonds was because he was going to catch the ball. I digress. I think Mostert could be a solid add this week. Not great, solid. These 2 are a little more up in the air. With James Conner going down, Darrell Williams and Eno Benjamin both are an interesting grab. I believe Darrell Williams got the first crack at it, but their numbers ended up the same in regards to carries. Both had 8 carries, both had 8 targets. Their snaps were only off by 3. Their routes run were only off by 2. So they looked pretty close, but if I had to pick one, I guess I'd take Darrell Williams over Eno Benjamin. But I heard a lot of good things about Eno Benjamin before the season started, so we'll see. And last but not least, you might want to stash Brian Robinson, running back for the Washington Commanders. He looks like he's healing fairly well from his gunshot wounds. For those who don't know, he got shot twice before the season started. He was looking like he was going to be the starting running back for Washington. But after this happened, he couldn't be the starter, so Antonio Gibson took his place. But he might be coming back sooner rather than later. I am hearing, according to Roto World, it looks like he is doing work on the sideline. They're saying that it's a realistic possibility that he could be ready for week 5. Now, he would still be a stash, but if you have an IR spot, you might want to grab him. Moving on to tight ends. Are you hurting at tight end? Has Cole Kmet gotten zeros for you? Not once, but twice? Well, check out the waiver wire for these 3 tight ends. Logan Thomas, tight end for the Washington Commanders. He had 5 targets and a touchdown. I do think that he's going to get more involved moving forward. Next, we have Hayden Hurst, who started his year off with 8 targets, then 7 targets. That's pretty solid for a tight end. And last but not least, we have Irv Smith Jr., who had 8 targets, 5 receptions, and a touchdown. I think that he's going to be more and more involved moving forward. You might want to grab him now before he has a blow-up game. I got a bonus tight end for you. Or 2. Evan Ingram and Mike Gesicki. Mike Gesicki benefited from an incredible comeback from Miami, and I do think he's going to be a little involved. I do not trust him yet, but these are desperate times, desperate measures. This is the 5th person on a waiver wire show. How great do you think we're going to be? This is fantasy football. The tight end landscape is bare. Evan Ingram, I also think is going to get more involved. He had 8 targets and 7 receptions last week in a PPR league. That'll get it done from the tight end position. 3 defenses you should check out on your waiver wire. Number 1, the Philadelphia Eagles. Taking on Washington and Jacksonville in their next 2 weeks. That's a pretty solid start. Next up, the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts have been terrible this year. And they may not have Michael Pittman. I hope that they do, but they may not. So that would make the defense against them even better. And last but not least, if you're feeling lucky, you can grab the Dallas Cowboys. They face the Giants and Washington. Those are solid matchups. Looks like Trayvon Diggs is playing pretty well. So I guess, how about them Cowboys? Ugh. So that's going to do it for my waiver wire episode in week 3. If you have any questions, let me know. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell down below. Good luck on the wire this week. Peace.